Welcome back, everybody, to the New York Knicks, MyNBA franchise here on NBA 2K23. Today we will be going through free agency along with pretty much everything else leading up to the start of the regular season, which will be in the next episode. Last time around, we went through the NBA draft, and it was a really exciting episode. Certainly one of my favorites of the series. And in case you missed it, I'll leave the card at the top right of your screen so you can go ahead and check it out. There were a lot of big moves that happened during the NBA draft, specifically the shocking three-team trade that is sending Joel Embiid to the Los Angeles Lakers and James Harden to the Dallas Mavericks. The Sixers got a major haul back, including the number 2 overall pick, which was Shaggy Lewis. The only player drafted ahead of him was Zachary Archibald, the center out of Alabama, who went number 1 overall to the Miami Heat. Our Knicks had a great draft, in my opinion. We didn't make any shocking trades, but we did get great value of all of our draft picks. We selected Purdue forward Zachariah Royster with the 25th overall pick, a player who I did not think would fall that far in the draft, and we completely lucked out by landing him. We entered the day with 1 second rounder, and we turned them into 2, which we used on Kepri Kane and Alexander Killebrew, 2 high upside wings who hopefully can develop within our organization. So now that we have made it through the draft, it's time to go through free agency. And the goal today is for our Knicks to finally acquire a true superstar. This is something I have been hinting at since really the start of Season 2. We've been talking about guys we can look at in the trade market, which maybe we make a big trade today. Maybe we go out and get a guy in free agency. We've got a lot of roster and cap flexibility, but we also have a lot of our own guys as free agents this offseason. John Collins is a player option that I expect him to opt out of. Paul George is an unrestricted free agent. And then Splash Mayo, James Wiseman, and Jackson Watkins are all restricted free agents this summer. We're not going to be the only team who goes out star hunting. I think some other ones, particularly the Lakers, will be looking to add a big name to pair up with Joel Embiid. The Thunder obviously have the whole Shai Gilgeous-Alexander situation where they either have to trade for a star or acquire one in some way or trade SGA instead per his demands. He is sick and tired of not competing for a title and wants to be able to do that this year, whether it's in OKC or somewhere else. We talked about that whole SGA storyline in the last episode. The Thunder almost acquired Joel Embiid, but the Lakers came back with a better trade at the last minute. So we'll start things off with the team and player options. John Collins, unsurprisingly, will be declining his, meaning that he will opt for the open market as an unrestricted free agent. Collins was inconsistent, but very solid for us. He had some good stretches, he had some bad stretches, but obviously at the back end of the playoffs, he really struggled, particularly in that Game 7 against the Magic. Obviously, us drafting Zachariah Royster in the first round also doesn't bode very well for his future. I kind of figured he would want more than $26.5 million per season, hence why this is really not a surprise. DeCarlo, Feinstein, and Kabongo all have team options. We will unsurprisingly be accepting those, meaning these guys are now under contract for next season. Most of the top free agents in this class all had player options, and they seem to all decline them. So Giannis, Tatum, LeBron, and Donovan Mitchell headline the list of unrestricted free agents who the Knicks and any other team can go after. So unsurprisingly, it looks like we will be having a star-studded free agency and a real opportunity for us to finally get our franchise player. The final stage before free agency is qualifying offers, which Splash Mayo, Jackson Watkins, Hector Dorstrada, and James Wiseman will all have theirs extended. We have enough money for a max contract slot, so I think it's time to spend some money. Let's take a look at this free agency class, and boy, is it a good one. Teams have been planning around this free agency class for years. Guys like Giannis, Tatum, LeBron, Mitchell, Brandon Ingram, and other high-level restricted free agents as well. For the first stage of moratorium, we will be giving out 2 offers. The first one will be extended to Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is arguably the best player in the NBA. He has shown the ability to carry a team to the championship as he did with the Milwaukee Bucks in 2021. The Bucks have kind of held on to their core for too long, yet it has backfired. Milwaukee was the 13th seed in the Eastern Conference this past season, and it seems like Giannis wants an opportunity to win somewhere, preferably in a bigger market, and he's not going to be able to win or be in a big market in Milwaukee. In terms of actual serious offers, he has quite a few. The Sonics decided to give him a big deal, but they're last because they're not very good, but I respect the effort. The Bucks are in 4th place. In 3rd place, interestingly, is the Boston Celtics. And then right now, I think there are 2 real contenders for him. The first one is a little bit of a surprise team, but it is the Toronto Raptors. And at first glance, you're probably thinking, why would Giannis want to go to the Raptors? Giannis has been linked to Toronto in the past. He and Masai Ujiri reportedly have a good relationship. Toronto's roster is not great. They've gutted their 2019 championship core. Van Vliet, Anunoby, and Siakam are all gone. Got to keep in mind, though, Scotty Barnes probably will be back, so he makes their roster a lot better. And then the main favorite for him right now is, unsurprisingly, the Los Angeles Lakers. The opportunity to team up with Joel Embiid in LA has to be really exciting for him. So the Lakers do look like the favorite to land Giannis, but we're certainly going to throw our hat into the ring and try to get him. So we're going to offer Giannis a 4-year contract for over $200 million. The idea of bringing Giannis to New York is really, really exciting. I still think the Lakers are the favorite because they have Joel Embiid. As you can see, our offer is currently 3rd, despite it being the most value technically. So I do think ultimately he will sign with the Lakers, but we threw our hat into the ring and gave it a good effort. The other player I'm going to give an offer to here in Stage 1 is Jayson Tatum of the Boston Celtics. This is another guy who has proven to be a championship caliber player, leading Boston to an NBA title in 2024, in which he won the Finals MVP. However, I do think it's a little bit more likely Tatum might leave Boston than one might have thought going into the offseason. The Celtics only won 48 games last year as the number 4 seed. They lost in the first round, and their roster is not all that spectacular. They lost Jaylen Brown last offseason, and although they did replace him with DeJounte Murray, who's arguably a little bit better, Tatum and Murray struggled to find chemistry on the floor at times this season, which I think is why the Celtics only won 48 games. Giannis seems to be the apple of more teams' eyes. He's better. He's a little bit more proven. But obviously, there are some major suitors for Jayson Tatum. He's gotten 3 big offers so far. One from the Sonics. Again, credit to Seattle for trying, but I don't think it's going to happen. The Lakers, who I think would prefer Giannis. And then the biggest offer is from the Brooklyn Nets, who are trying to pair up a superstar with Bam Adebayo. As we look at the list of teams who offered Jayson Tatum contracts, there's one very notable omission. Where the hell are the Boston Celtics? They have not offered Tatum a deal, yet if you remember, they offered Giannis a contract. So Jayson Tatum has to feel extremely disrespected by that, and because of that, there's a real shot he could join a new team. We offered him a 4-year deal, the same amount of money as Brooklyn. The Nets are in 1st place, and we're also behind the Lakers. So with us being in 3rd place for both Giannis and Tatum, it doesn't look like we're going to end up getting one of these guys, but at least we can say that we gave a strong effort and gave as much money as we could. As I simulated past the first day, I was presented with a very unlikely surprise. Guys, we have done it. We've acquired a superstar. Jayson Tatum has agreed to a 4-year, $191 million maximum contract with the New York Knicks. We have done it. We have finally gotten a true superstar player, and it's Jayson Tatum. I did not expect this to happen at all going into the episode. Now, unfortunately, we do have to renounce the rights on pretty much everybody, but I think it's worth it to add one of the 5 best players in the league. So Jayson Tatum has now agreed, in principle, to become a Knick. It's not official yet, but it's close to official. Now we're in Stage 2. The only other move I really want to focus on is bringing back James Wiseman. I like what he was able to do for us last year, and he currently has an offer from the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's a pretty cheap offer and something I would be willing to match. And sure enough, on day 3, James Wiseman accepted the deal from Cleveland, which we ultimately were able to match. Now that we are out of the moratorium phase, we can officially say that Jayson Tatum is a New York Knick. This has been something that we have waited for since Season 2. The opportunity to get a true star-level player on the team. But even I could have never imagined that we would have been able to get a guy of Jayson Tatum's caliber. I had always been searching for guys a peg below him, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Zion Williamson, and others, because truthfully, I never thought Jayson Tatum would be available. I always thought he would just stick in Boston. The Celtics were a great situation for him. He won a championship there, but with some issues with the team this past season, Jayson Tatum wanted to get out. Boston disrespected him by not giving him a contract offer, but instead trying to sign Giannis. Ultimately, Tatum's decision really came down to us and the Brooklyn Nets. The Lakers ended up signing another really good player, as you'll see in a second, so they kind of fell out of the running. The reason why he chose us over Brooklyn is because we're a better team. It's really that simple, and we're in a better long-term situation to win over these next 3 to 5 years during the duration of his contract. Obviously, we gave him a fat bag, but we didn't lose any other assets by acquiring him. We still have all of our young players, and we still have all of our draft picks, meaning we have ammunition to go out and get another star, whether that's today or this upcoming season or next offseason. We had the ability to pair Jayson Tatum up with another high-level player. Let's take a look at some of the other big moves that happened during the early stages of free agency, with most of the big-name free agents off the board. You still got guys like Ingram, Simmons, and Collins, but all of the superstar players are officially on their new teams, and that starts with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who ultimately decided to take the deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. After trading away LeBron and AD at the deadline, the Lakers get right back to work with a new superstar tandem of Giannis and Joel Embiid, the next two faces of the Lake Show. So the two biggest free agents signed with the two biggest market teams in the league. Giannis going to the Lakers, and Jayson Tatum obviously signing with our New York Knicks. They were not the only big-time superstars on the market, however. In terms of the other big-time free agents, all of the restricted guys, at least all of the really good ones like Mobley, Cade, Jalen Green, Scotty Barnes, they re-upped with their current teams on maximum contracts. LeBron James is back in Dallas on a one-year deal, so he's going to re-up with Luka and James Harden. The next big free agent signing is Donovan Mitchell, who has agreed with the Brooklyn Nets. So our rivals have just gotten a lot better with adding Donovan Mitchell, pairing him up with Bam Adebayo. That's a nice duo that Brooklyn's got going forward. As for the Cavs, they should still be really good, but that's obviously a big loss. Donovan Mitchell was a key part in their two finals runs during this series. Josh Giddey ended up signing a 4-year max with the Seattle Sonics, which the OKC Thunder did not match. Seattle's got a nice future. They now have the big three of Josh Giddey, Noah Kogan, and last year's Rookie of the Year winner, Monte Moore. That's a scary trio going forward, and they're all 22 years old or younger. As for the Thunder, they get worse, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is growing even more upset because the Thunder are actively declining rather than adding star players per his wish. On day 2 of free agency, we had another big domino fall. Brandon Ingram ended up signing with the San Antonio Spurs, and at first glance, this looks like a weird one. Why would Brandon Ingram leave the Pelicans, a championship contender, for the Spurs? Well, San Antonio's been working on a big trade behind the scenes. Greg Popovich is getting older. He's not going to be coaching for that much longer, so the Spurs decided to make a big-time deal acquiring Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat. I think Butler and Coach Pop are very like-minded individuals and will enjoy working together. Butler's 35 years old and on the last year of his deal, and the Heat are clearly intrigued by starting a rebuild. So the Spurs will be trading away Percy Butler. They picked him in the top 10 last year. He's a good young player, but they've got a very similar guy on their roster already with Jeremy Sohan, so they don't really need both of them. Along with that, the Heat will be getting their own first-round pick back this year, which is a big deal, and 3 second-rounders as well. So the Heat can start off their rebuild. They've already got a solid young core in place. They get their draft pick back, and now the Spurs look really, really good with a big three of Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram, and Kristaps Porzingis, along with all of the young guys who are really good on this team, like Buzz, Sohan, Sevelchenko, and their top draft pick this year, Xavier McLeod. I really like the roster that the Heat have here. Tyler Hero is their guy for now. Zachary Archibald will probably be the long-term franchise player, and now they've got some cap flexibility to make some more signings. On day 6 of free agency, Splash Mayo agreed to a 4-year, $92 million contract with the Baltimore Red Tails. I really like what Splash Mayo has been able to provide us the past 2 seasons. He's a very good interior scorer. He's a good shooter from beyond the arc, but other than that, he doesn't have any major strengths. He's not a good defender. He's not a great playmaker, and he's been mainly a bench player for us over the last 2 seasons, and I don't think that would change going into this year. So because of that, I don't think this would be worth it for us to match, bringing him back for close to $25 million a season. The Red Tails now have themselves a really good core. They also signed Jalen Suggs as well in free agency. So it sucks that the Blue-Handed Bandits are no longer together, but that's just too much money for me to pay. Hopefully Splash Mayo can do well on his new team. So we're now on the final day of free agency. We've talked about all the big moves already, but what about some of the other moves around free agency that we have not gone over yet? As we scroll down a little bit, Ben Simmons is back in Phoenix. He signs on a 4-year huge contract. John Collins is a Seattle Sonic. This team is looking really good with Giddey, Collins, Kogan, and more. They also signed Marvin Bagley and Trey Murphy. I think both expansion teams, the Sonics and the Red Tails, have done a fantastic job of building their rosters over the past season, and both of them are going to be very competitive this upcoming season. Franz Wagner teams up with Scotty Barnes in Toronto. Sadiq Bey signs with the Miami Heat. So that's a big addition for them. I don't think the Heat are going to be that bad. I really like their roster. We talked about Jalen Suggs. Denny Avdia is a Boston Celtic. The Kings add Terry Rozier and Cole Anthony. Malcolm Brogdon to the Mavericks. Jeremy Grant goes to Boston. He'll replace Grant Williams, who signs with the Clippers. And then there were some former Knicks down here on new teams. Not James Wiseman, but Mayo's now with the Red Tails. Quentin Grimes to the Celtics. Emmanuel quickly signed with the Trailblazers, while Obi Toppin is headed to the Toronto Raptors. So that wraps up free agency. Obviously a major success for us, but what about the trade market? I also want to go over some teams who are in limbo right now, and that includes the Orlando Magic, who lost both Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs for nothing, and they did not get anybody to replace those guys. But Boston Celtics lost Jayson Tatum, and they replaced him with Denny Avdia, Quentin Grimes, and Josh Christopher. That's not good enough. This team's not contending. What about the Oklahoma City Thunder, who lost Josh Giddey, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is growing even more impatient, and at this point, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will officially be holding out from the Oklahoma City Thunder until they trade for a star or they trade him. The Thunder know they are out of leverage and they have to go and get a guy now, but the problem is there aren't many star-level players who are available for trade. OKC had to do a little bit of digging after sitting on their hands all off-season, and they finally approached DeJounte Murray, who is an interesting one. The Celtics traded for Murray last year. Things didn't really work out, although Murray individually played quite well, and the Celtics kind of want to start a rebuild. So the Thunder and Celtics were able to agree to a trade. Kayson Castillo, the 7th overall pick last year, is headed to Boston, along with Enzo Valentino, a talented playmaking wing, and 2 firsts and 2 seconds in exchange for DeJounte Murray. So both teams get exactly what they want. The Thunder get a star player to pair up with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who now will no longer be asking out of OKC. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't completely satisfied yet, but I do think he will play the duration of his contract out in Oklahoma City after the addition of DeJounte Murray. Their roster should still be able to get a lot better before the season starts with all of their young players still progressing. They no longer have a stash of draft picks, and I feel like they almost fumbled it at the end, but by getting DeJounte Murray, they're able to keep their core intact. And after all that, Shai is staying in Oklahoma City. As for the Celtics, they'll be starting a rebuild. Robert Williams and Marcus Smart are probably going to be traded by the deadline. They're both on the last year of their deals. But they've got 7 draft picks in the next 4 years, and they've got some good young players to build around, specifically the 2 that they just acquired from the Oklahoma City Thunder. As for us, I don't think we're going to make any trades now. I did want to get a second star for Jayson Tatum, given the opportunity, but the only one available was DeJounte Murray, and I don't think Tatum and Murray would like to join forces again because last year was kind of a disaster. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was also technically available, but the Thunder were very hell-bent on not trading him, and I guess their stubbornness paid off. So we're going to continue to look to acquire a second star throughout this upcoming season, but unfortunately it will not be today. So that will bring us to the final stages of the offseason, starting with player progression. We've got some guys taking big leaps up. Cesar DiCarlo goes up only 1. I'm happy he went up altogether because of his injury issues. His athleticism did take a big hit, going down from A all the way to B+. Coco Diablo goes up 4. DJ Ramses goes up 3. I'm very happy about that. Ramses' athleticism went down a little bit because of his ankle injury in the playoffs, but he does now have an A+ 3-point shot. The other big mover was Rock Khalif Dumbu, who goes up 3 to a 74. After that, we're going to quickly go over the Summer League. Pretty much all of the young guys on the roster are on the Summer League team, so they'll get another opportunity to play and prove themselves. And then we also signed a couple guys out of free agency, such as Kenneth Lofton Jr. and Kawasi Key. So this is what the Summer League lineup is going to look like. We're going to test out running our 3 guards all together in the starting lineup. I also might test out Zachariah Royster starting at center. So our first game is against the defending champion Rockets. We end up winning big, 116-92. Ramses leads the way with 18 on great efficiency, while Cesar DiCarlo nearly had a triple-double, and Zachariah Royster played great in his debut. Our next game is against the Baltimore Red Tails. We win by 8 with a big comeback in the fourth quarter. Our guards played really well. DJ Ramses only took 4 shots, but was still efficient. Splash Mail led the Red Tails with 22, despite losing. Our final game is against the Washington Wizards, and we win that one as well by 19. So we go 3-0 in the Summer League regular season. Nobody had more than 13 points. It was a very balanced approach. We shot the ball super well from 3. For Wizards, Amani Juno II had 24, but that's not enough to get the job done. The Summer League team looks very balanced. Our passing is really good. We've got 4 guys with at least 5 assists a game. Unfortunately, DiCarlo and Dumbu are both banged up, but they don't have serious injuries, so they should be fine to be able to play through those in the Summer League playoffs. Our first game is against the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've had a very interesting relationship with the Thunder in this series, particularly their unwillingness to trade us Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We would end up winning the game by 20. Again, a very balanced effort. Good to see us winning our first playoff game, moving on to the second round against the Utah Jazz. Their best player, Christopher Killebrew, is a little bit too good for the Summer League, and they could have really used him because we won pretty convincingly. The guards played well again. DiCarlo led the way with 19 points. That'll bring us into the third round as we play against the San Antonio Spurs, who've got a very good core of young and veteran guys on their roster. We were down at halftime, but we would outscore them by 11 in the third and 20 in the fourth to win the game by 30. Coco Diablo at 26. He played very well. That'll bring us to the semifinals where we play against the number 1 seeded Boston Celtics. Boston's looking for revenge. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. The Celtics would pour off a big comeback at the end of the game and win by 1. So the Celtics are going to the Summer League final despite 20 and 19 from Watkins and Royster, respectively. For Boston, their star player today was Jayson Castillo, who went 13 of 15 from the field and 7 of 8 from 3. What happened at the end of the game was Zaza Hadebe was fouled. Not a good free-throw shooter, but he made both of them. And then Kepri Kane missed the game winner. And ultimately, the Celtics end up winning the finals over the Atlanta Hawks. So the Boston Celtics start their rebuild off pretty well, winning the Summer League Championship with a great performance from their new franchise player, Jayson Castillo. Now we have the All-Star City selection. That'll be in Washington, D.C. That's okay with me. I'm going to get started working on the draft class pretty soon, so if you'd like to make a player, make sure to go join the Discord. The link is in the description. And with that, we are now in Season 4. Our opening game is at home against the Seattle Sonics. That'll be Jayson Tatum's first home game at Madison Square Garden. And then a couple weeks into the season, we get to go into Boston. I'm curious to see what the reception will be for Tatum amongst the Celtics fans, because on one hand, Tatum won a championship in Boston, but on the other hand, the breakup between Tatum and the Celtics was quite ugly. This is what the lineup will look like to begin the season. Cesar DiCarlo and DJ Ramses will start in the backcourt with Barrett, Tatum, and Wiseman in the front court. We will give guys like Coco Diablo the opportunity to start in the backcourt. Ahmed Kabongo is now rated higher than James Wiseman, so Kabongo will get an opportunity to start at center. And we also need a lot of these guys at the end of the bench to prove themselves. Other than Coco Diablo and Cam Reddish, I don't think anybody is guaranteed to be getting consistent minutes for us off the bench. So we need everybody below the 7th man to prove themselves. For now, it'll be Kabongo, Feinstein, Royster, and Watkins in the rotation, with Dumbu, Killebrew, and Kane getting opportunities as well. And ultimately, we'll figure out which players will be getting minutes throughout the season and which players may be used as trade chips to eventually acquire a secondary star to join Jayson Tatum. So that's going to wrap up the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Our Knicks finally have a star in Jayson Tatum, so it's going to be really fun to see what we can do with him leading the ship. Peace out.